8:14 p.m., 8/11/2024. So, you'd think it wouldn't take 6+ hours rewiring a trailer, because it shouldn't. But when you're a bumpkin like myself, it does. So I attempted to rewire 2 trailers today, and I'd never done that before, and each trailer had different lights that accompanied it. And I have a video on my channel about Cat 6 cable. I have 3 videos, 2 that I fail and 1 that I don't, from I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. It's the same principle, because you're syncing up certain wires for certain functions. And just like in the Cat 6 cable video, I had to learn. I knew what a ground wire was, but I didn't know what colors went to what lights on the trailer. So, for one particular trailer, one was white and yellow on the left, and on the right side, it was green and brown. But then we had another trailer where the lights had the wires poking out of it, and it had brown and red. And we got one side to work, and we didn't get the other side to work. So I don't know what that's about. And we followed the directions on the first trailer, and for the most part, it went okay. But the second one, the lights didn't come with directions, and I didn't look it up anyways, because at that point we'd been doing it for hours, and I was exhausted, and we kind of gave up on it. So, I don't know what you call them, like reflective, not headlights. They're the lights that go on the back of the tree, rear lights, I guess, or I don't know what you call it. But I'm not sure how the red and brown connects, because okay, we had 2 of them, and both had red and brown, and the white and yellow connected, but the green and brown didn't. We connected them, but they didn't work. So it's all right. But with the first trailer, what I had to do, since I couldn't chain it and lift it on a gantry, I had to crawl underneath it. Because when you wire a trailer, you try to keep it tucked and hidden up underneath the trailer so debris doesn't cut the line, and you're protecting the wire. And unbeknownst to me, this particular trailer, I was looking for loops and where to put the wire, but there wasn't loops. There was little cut holes in the bars. And so what I was doing was feeding the wire through these very small wire cut holes in the trailer that just fit. And then I had to climb underneath the entire trailer to cinch it across the width of the trailer. So I had the white and yellow on the left and the green and brown on the right. And in order to do that, you have to split all 4 of them. And then you hack off the white and yellow, and then you keep the green and brown long. But then you don't want to have it drooping. So what you do is you cinch it on one of the beams, not the axle, but one of the beams. So that was fun. My back kind of hurts from crawling all around the ground and when I was underneath, it felt like that scene in Kill Bill 2 where she's in the coffin and like Pai Mei has taught her how to punch within like a 3-inch distance. I I very much enjoy that film, but the plausibility of getting out of a grave like that is, I think, pretty much zero. Because I was lying on the ground, cinching these wires to the underside of a trailer, and every time I moved, I would get dirt in my face. I got to admit, I was thinking about that movie and the plausibility of it, and I was like, you can't even stand up. If you were to punch a hole, it just seems so unrealistic. But we go with it when we watch the movie because I don't know, that's what you do. So even though I did two today, I did one successfully, and I was, as much as I dreaded the job, I was kind of happy to learn how to do it. Now, we didn't put, there's a certain cover you can put on it that I probably should have put on it, but that was, and if I was only working on one trailer, I probably would have done it. But there's videos online and tutorials about how to line your trailer with trailer wire and how to cinch it and how to make it work better. Probably better than what I did, but I think for never having done it before and all things considered, I'm kind of proud of myself for it. So we'll see how long it works and how long it stays, but you know, for being able to climb under there and feed it through its respective holes, for lack of a better word, and then cinch it down. I'm pretty happy with it. So it's not something I want to do full time, but and also I don't have a claustrophobia, but I can see like when you get in a situation like that, how you could panic, and I do have to do this kind of like mental block to be okay. Like I could get out and everything's fine, and we didn't have it on a jack. Like I was flat on the ground, wiggling underneath the trailer, but it is like, holy shit. There was barely enough room for me to lift my head and like move. I had to move my arms a certain way because I couldn't. I don't know. You couldn't bend a certain way. So, but that's what I did for like 6, 7 hours today. Was try to wire a couple of trailers, and I was what I would say moderately successful. We'll go with that. I'm not an artisan, but I'm not a complete novice. I'm just a half step up above novice. So, but the other day I was talking about middle of the night, and I said I had wanted to talk about other things, but I wanted to keep that particular video centered around middle of the night. And every time I look at that Ryan's daughter thumbnail, I think, so you don't want me then? And I go around saying, so you don't want me then? But to the title of today's video and what I wanted to talk about, not long ago, the Stanley Kubrick Archive announced a mini documentary on The Shining. And I had first heard of it, and I was pretty pumped. And part of me was thinking, they're finally going to release there's this kind of well-known quote-unquote lost scene. It's this cut hospital scene that's I don't know if I want to say it's a postscript or an epilogue, but I would say that's fair. It's after the climax, and it's meant to provide some exposition, but also provide a cliffhanger on the same tone. And I thought that's what the documentary was going to be. But the documentary ended up being going back to Elm Street Studios and going back to the spaces where certain scenes were filmed. And for the most part, certain buildings didn't exist anymore. So there was like Jan Harlan, Katharina Kubrick, and one of the producers um, doing a tour of L Street Studios and going to the locations where they shot specific scenes. In so doing, they discovered that there is actually a space in one of the buildings that still exists where they shot a boiler room scene. They shot a tracking shot of Wendy dragging Jack's body, and the pantry is still there, along with a couple hallways. And they did it dissolved to where they showed it in the film, and they showed it as it is today, as it still exists today. And the last little golden nugget was them opening the pantry door. And the pantry still has some of the shelving that it had back in 78, 79. And it looks the same, and it's so cool to see that still exists. And seeing Jan and seeing Katharina is hard because they're I think in the golden, especially Jan is in the golden years. I think Jan is I want to look this up now. Let's take a look. Jan Harlan, I think that's how you say his name, is 87 years old, and he's still pretty sharp. And he is the younger brother of Christian Kubrick, who is 92 years old. That's Stanley's wife, Christian. She is the mother of Katharina, Anya, and Vivian. And Vivian got swept up into Scientology, sadly. And I think she's kind of lost to that cult. And then Anya died when she was 50. So the few people that are still kind of spearheading who are the original Kubrick key players are Christian, who was 92, Jan Harlan, who was 87, and Katharina, who is in her 70s. Katharina Kubrick? Yeah, Katharina. And they're really great about holding this in high regard and keeping the legacy alive and going. When Jan talks about working with Stanley and working on the films, he's very spirited and very joyous and very honest. In the documentary, he said it was a hard shoot. It was incredibly hard. And a long one at that, because it was almost a year. And And one of the other key Kubrick players that sadly isn't here anymore is Leon Vitali. Leon died just about 2 years ago now, at the age of 74. And I think he was sick for a large portion, or, well, a good portion of his later years. I'm not sure what with, but Leon was absolutely instrumental in the process of Stanley Kubrick's filmmaking. He was one of his personal assistants, but you see him in the making of The Shining, kind of running around dictating, like helping tell people where to go and what to do per Stanley's orders, more or less. And I've seen, there's a documentary about him, I forget what it's called, that I've kind of yet to find online. I'll find it sooner or later. What is it called? Looking. And of course, he's worked with Todd Field, which is great. Todd's great. All right, I'll have to type it in. What is the Leon Vitali documentary? Film Worker, that's what it's called. And he essentially talks about how he gave up being an actor to go work for Stanley on his films. So he made a huge sacrifice in his life and gave his life and time to put muscle behind Stanley and Stanley's films and Stanley's vision. And Film Worker goes into that a little bit. I don't know if he was struggling to find work or hit a wall, or felt that working with Stanley would be more promising than his own film career. But let's see. Yeah, he was Lord Bullington in Barry Lyndon, and he was the Red Cloak in Eyes Wide Shut. He played oddly familiar man in Little Children, which, and I think he helped not produce, but work on Little Children. What does it say? Let's see. Vitali worked with filmmaker Todd Field, with whom he appeared in Eyes Wide Shut. Todd Field plays Nick Nightingale. Vitali is credited as technical consultant on Todd Field's In the Bedroom and as associate producer on Field's Little Children, where he also made a cameo appearance as the oddly familiar man. Does he have a line? Let me see if he has a line. If he has a line, I know what it is, because I do love this film, Little Children. It's excellent. Based on the novel by Tom Perrotta, which I also have read, and it's excellent. Let's see. So sleepy. I haven't even got to the main event of why I'm reading this. Oddly familiar man. Does he have any lines? Looking. There's Slutty K fan club member. Oddly. Does he have any lines? Let's see. No. Okay. Maybe I can Google it. Let's see. Leon Vitali Little Children. Is there a screen grab of him? Not that I'm seeing. I'd have to scan the movie to find him. Maybe he's in the background at the pool or something. Anyways, Leon Vitali is another one of Kubrick's key people that I'm sure he would have been in this little documentary. I think it's called Shine On. Let me see. Shine On documentary. Yeah. And it's under the Stanley Kubrick channel. The forgotten shining location. Which I guess is kind of true. But what brings me to make this video today is some precious soul made an AI reconstruction of the, let's see what it says, the hospital scene from The Shining. And it's done about as good as possible. It's a horrible, like, kind of haggard AI reconstruction, but it gives you an idea of what was cut from the film. So I want to talk a little bit about it. This is an AI reconstruction of the long-destroyed hospital scene, originally intended as the ending for the film The Shining. So apparently, there's using these remaining photos from the scene, there's 9 photos on the screen. You have, and it's set in a hospital. You have the reception desk, Shelley Duvall, Wendy in the hospital bed with Ullman. Ullman is the action in the scene. He's the person that the camera is following. And Wendy's in the bed with a kind of 1,000-yard stare, and Danny is in a cute little plaid bathrobe. And then the ending, he's holding a tennis ball. So using these remaining photos from the scene. And there's like a cop outside of Wendy's door. Okay. And the original script. So I'm going to read from the script. Interior hospital, Ullman walks forward and stops at reception desk where nurse and Danny are playing snakes and ladders, I think. Either shakes and ladders or snakes and ladders. I'm like squinting to read this. Ullman, hi everybody. Nurse, good evening, Mr. Ullman. Ullman, how's it going, Danny? Danny, okay. Nurse, he's doing just fine, aren't we, Danny? Danny, yes. Ullman, good. That's wonderful news. How's Mrs. Torrance today? Nurse, oh, she's much better. She had a little lunch, or she had a nice lunch, and she took a little walk around this afternoon. Ullman, oh, that's just great. Is it okay for me to go in and see her? Nurse, yes, of course, Mr. Ullman. He leaves reception desk and walks towards open door where policeman sits. This is very, I don't know if this is grammatically correct, but we'll go with it. Ullman, how's it going? Policeman, just fine. Ullman knocks on door. Ullman, Mrs. Torrance? Wendy, come in. Ullman enters. Ullman, hi, how are you feeling today? Wendy, much better. Ullman, good. That's really good to hear. You're looking wonderful. Oh, by the way, I brought you these flowers. Wendy, thank you. Ullman, Danny's looking real well. He seems to have adjusted very well, all things considered. Oh, I spoke to Lieutenant Elliot on the way over here, and he said they've finished with this silly business about their investigation. He said he'd be over here this evening to tell you himself. Wendy, does this mean we're free to leave? Ullman, of course you are. Well, about the things you saw at the hotel. He told me they've really gone over the place with a fine-tooth comb, and they didn't find the slightest evidence of anything at all out of the ordinary. Mrs. Torrance, I think I know how you must feel about this, but it's perfectly understandable for someone to imagine such things when they've been through something like you have. You mustn't think about it anymore. Have you decided where you're going when you leave here? Wendy, no. Ullman, Mrs. Torrance, I'd like to take the liberty of suggesting that you and Danny come and spend a while at my place in L.A., at least until you get your feet on the ground. It would be great for Danny. It's right on the beach. You fall asleep with the sound of the waves, and in the morning you open the shutters and there you are. Ocean, blue, blue skies and sunshine. It wouldn't be any trouble at all. I've got a marvelous housekeeper and 2 spare bedrooms. I really think this would be the best thing for you and Danny. I won't take no for an answer. Ullman walks to reception counter. Ullman continued. I'm on my way. Oh, I brought Mrs. Torrance some flowers. Could you have someone put them in a vase for her? Nurse. Yes, I will. Ullman. Goodbye, Danny. See you tomorrow. Danny. Bye. Ullman moves away, then turns. Ullman. Oh, Danny, I forgot to give you this. Catch. He throws yellow ball to Danny. Ullman. See you tomorrow, Danny. Ullman leaves. Hold on, Danny. Interior lobby. Track past furniture covered in dust sheets to picture on background wall. Fade into this title onto black. The Overlook Hotel would survive this tragedy as it had so many others. It is still open each year from May 20th to September 20th. It is closed for the winter. The end. Okay, so those are the pages of the script, and I'm going to watch the AI reconstruction. So it starts with an exterior of the hospital, and then moves to the interior of Danny in the hall, and then cuts to Ullman walking down a hospital corridor. Okay, to the reception desk where he talks to the receptionist and Danny. And okay, I'm trying to think about what to say. I'm letting this play out. Let's see. So he goes to the reception desk and asks if he could see Mrs. Torrance, and the reception says yes. He's carrying some flowers, and it's ominous. I'm kind of watching it. The AI is really horrible, but it at least gives you an idea of what the scene what the section would be. The YouTube account is Dougie Douggy. I'm just kind of letting it play out. Some of the AI is so bad. Okay, let's see what else it says. Yeah. The Overlook Hotel would survive this tragedy as it had so many others. It is still open each year from May 20th to September 20th. It is closed for the winter. Let's see. Copies of the original epilogue from The Shining were reportedly destroyed upon Kubrick's request from all test screen prints prior to release. However, this reconstruction was made using some of the remaining photos I could find online and the original script for this scene. I put these through various AI programs and edited the results. Also, making some new ones where the reference didn't exist and coloring the black and white ones. The parts that cut back to the original film in Ullman's apartment are merely there to break up the repetitive shots. In no way is this how I imagine it was shot. Albeit messy, this was an interesting experiment to see what is currently possible with the software available. This was made for fun, nothing more. Okay, let's see. Um, so, okay, a few things. There are some comments underneath the video from people claiming to have seen the original version. Let's see. And there's one specific comment that I thought was really good from Paul Day Clemens 7761. Okay. I have a lot of helpful specifics to offer here because I'm one of the few people lucky enough to have seen that infamous cutscene because I saw The Shining on its opening day. I also had a detailed phone conversation with Barry Nelson about that sequence several years later. And I don't know, take it with a grain of salt. This is just a random internet comment. So, to begin with, there were 0 flashbacks during the scene to earlier events, and even though the first and final sequences in the hospital corridor were filmed, they were not in the film as briefly released to the public. What I saw was Ullman entering Wendy's hospital room, giving her the flowers, and then talking with her. All the dialogue between them being pretty much exactly as presented in the reconstruction, with one huge exception. The scene was twice as long. This was due to much slower pacing with the almost Pinteresque pauses and hesitancy often typical of dialogue in a Kubrick film. There's also something architecturally weird going on here in the AI version. In the actual scene I saw, when Ullman entered Wendy's room, she was to his left, her bed against the wall to his far left, and whether he went to the side of the bed nearest the door or the windows, i.e. to Wendy's right or her left, when he gave her the flowers and then moved to the opposite side of the bed, I can no longer recall. And I also can't remember whether he stood the whole time or sat for part of their visit. But I do remember that when Ullman left Wendy's room, that is where the film cut to the slow dolly into the close-up of the black and white Independence Day ball photo with Jack and the party guests. However, Barry Nelson told me himself, long before the script pages for the scene appeared online, that he did shoot the scene where he greets Danny and speaks with the nurse. Then, after his visit with Wendy, a different final scene with Danny played out. Specifically, Ullman passed by Danny, who was playing with his toys, cars, and trucks in the hospital corridor, much as he did in the hallway of the overlook. And then, as Ullman says a passing goodbye to Danny and presses the call button as he reaches the hospital elevators, he turns back to Danny, remembering something. Then, reaching into his pocket, he withdraws the now infamous yellow tennis ball and says, "Here, Danny, you forgot something," or "I forgot something," or just simply, "Here, Danny," and then rolls the ball down the hospital corridor to Danny, who picks it up in an exact echo of the scene outside room 237. And as Danny looks at Mr. Ullman, his eyes wide with sudden fear, Ullman just smiles benignly and steps into the elevator, which closes, leaving Danny still holding the tennis ball and staring in fear. And like the AI reconstruction, that would have been the cut to the final shot on the July 4th wall photo. But with just the conversation between Ullman and Wendy, the scene felt tacked on with no real resolution. Whereas if the scene as described to me by Barry Nelson were to have been left in the film intact, I think it would have been chilling indeed. leaving no doubt as to Ullman being unambiguously in league with the dark forces inhabiting both the Overlook and Mr. Ullman himself. So, for like, okay, cancel. Oh shoot, I got this messed up. Okay, so, okay, going back, The Shining itself, cult classic, super popular film. It's my all-time favorite film. And as a fan of it, I want to say that I do not believe in the conspiracy theories. I have not watched Room 237, and I think it's very annoying that it's part of its legacy. I don't think Stanley Kubrick filmed faking the moon landing or whatever horseshit. I don't believe in any of that. The conspiracy theories are not without and are entertaining and may not necessarily be wrong, but I don't subscribe to them personally. However, learning about this hospital scene to me creates a whole new layer to the piece, specifically with Mr. Ullman. Mr. Ullman is one of the first characters that Jack interacts with in the film. And in the book, the opening line of the book, I think, it's been a while since I cracked it, is a vicious little prick. And that's what Jack is thinking when he sees Ullman. I think, I'm pretty sure, it's been a while. And so right off the bat, Mr. Ullman gives off a bad vibe. Like the first line of the book. In the movie, and I didn't think about it like this before, and I don't necessarily want to think about it like this now because I like the way it's played out in the final version of the film. Mr. Ullman is no nonsense. He's polite and cordial and professional. But when you watch that scene between himself, Jack, and I guess this other man in the room that's, I guess, I don't know. That's another thing. I don't know who the mystery guy is in the room with him. Maybe a higher up of the Overlook. But Mr. Ullman has the arduous task of telling Jack about the previous caretaker and the previous tragedy that happened. And he discusses it, but dresses it in a way that it's something that happened. It's something I had to tell you. But he phrases it in a way that it was the individual that had the problem. The individual had the breakdown. Not that the individual was influenced or manipulated or pulled into the situation. And he tells about Mr. Grady and the murders. He does that pause where he's like, he killed his family with an axe, stacked them neatly in one of the rooms in the West Wing, and then put both barrels of a shotgun in his mouth. And there's this cut to like the guy that's with him doesn't say anything, doesn't react, doesn't do anything. And all throughout, Mr. Ullman's body language is, again, kind of like matter of fact, casual, down to business, and succinct. With this hospital scene, and in reading the script, the 4 pages of the script, where Mr. Ullman has most of the dialogue, and he's matter of fact, he's all business, all professional, but he's doing it in a way that's orchestrating, conducting the characters' actions, where the characters go, what they should do. He's how do I put this? He's I'm trying to think of how I want to describe it. He's like an architectural engineer in that I think he knew what was going on. And I do think he's part of it. I didn't think of that before. And maybe I wasn't supposed to as an audience member. Or if I were a smarter audience member, I would have picked up on that. But just like that commenter was saying, let's see, what did he say? He said something about leaving no doubt as to Ullman being unambiguously in league with the dark forces inhabiting both the Overlook and Mr. Ullman himself. So, which makes Mr. Ullman, I don't think it makes him like a demon, but it definitely makes him he's colluding. He's an arbiter and a kind of gatekeeper to this purgatory. And Jack, as heinous as he is in the film, he's a tragic figure because he has a doomed fate to where forces pull him into this space and damn him for all eternity. And since he kind of failed in his mission to kill his wife and kid, the scene in the hospital with Mr. Ullman where he says, "Stay with me," it's still the magnet pulling Wendy and Danny back. Like Wendy and Danny got out of it. They extricated themselves out of that situation and broke free of it, but they're not free yet because Mr. Ullman is still tied to them. And I think I was reading somewhere that in this hospital scene, Wendy is kind of shell-shocked and a bit catatonic, but she's conscious and she's receiving the information. But I think Danny is fully awake and not under the guidance of Tony. And kind of Mr. Ullman more or less can't hide behind that professional facade. I think Danny sees Mr. Ullman for what he is, and that the terror continues. And, you know, there was Doctor Sleep, which was an extension of The Shining, but it didn't touch upon this facet of it. And maybe because Steven didn't write it this way, but I do think it sheds a whole new light on the Ullman character that I didn't necessarily see before. Because something had to bring the Torrance family to the Overlook. Something had to bring Jack to the Overlook. Where it was kind of walking in fate's line. But he didn't complete his fate's mission. He failed. And I don't know if that's a special kind of damnation for somebody that doesn't complete what it is they're supposed to. If they're conscious in the afterlife, then I think it is. But I was elated to see anything at all resembling a scene that I had not seen from The Shining that did exist, even if Stanley didn't want the public to see it or know about it. Because it does change the perspective of the film completely, at least for me, completely. And I do think Mr. Ullman, it's easy to say Mr. Ullman's evil. I think it's more than that. I think, like the user said, he's in league with the dark forces. He's a part of it. Maybe that's his fate, is to seal the deal and complete the mission. And he does it through this facade. And it is chilling. And the question is, they got out once. Can they ever escape it? Can they ever escape it completely? And will Danny have to protect his mom as long as he can and protect himself? And that tennis ball is like a link between the hotel and the Torrances. Do I think it should have been left in the film? Not necessarily. I wish it would have been like an extra on the DVD. It would have been cool to see. It under original ending, but Stanley didn't want that. There's a lot of great artists that destroy their works, but he didn't destroy all of it. But Francis Bacon and Eugene O'Neill, they burned. Francis Bacon got rid of his paintings. Eugene O'Neill, his Carlotta, burned manuscripts as stated in his will that he wanted them burned and destroyed. And Stanley, quote unquote, destroyed the hospital footage. But there's enough of it left to where we can kind of suppose what it was and what he was going for. And I think it's important. I think it's important to the film to kind of understand that we already know the hotel is ominous and foreboding and has evil in it. But I think it's bigger than it's on an Indian burial ground, and it's bigger than like Native American genocide, or it's a it's that might be part of it, but there's definitely a kind of limbo and lost souls that are ensnared. And I don't know that Stephen King meant for it to be necessarily any deeper than that, or if Stanley was just exploring the notion of like pockets of space on Earth or outside of Earth or wherever um, a being of any sort can encounter a specific space, and if that space has has anything attached to it, I don't want to say vibes, but has any sort of I don't know, anything positive or negative to it. And I think he was exploring that. I don't necessarily. I was gonna say I don't necessarily believe that's true, but I do think that say the Lizzie Borden house. Okay, people go and visit that house and take tours of it, and it's commercialized, and you can buy merch, and you can stay in like the bedrooms. Would I feel uneasy if I went in there? Yeah, a couple murders happened there. And I don't necessarily agree that it should be a touristy place, and I do think it's kind of disrespectful to the people involved. But do I think it holds like a lingering energy? I don't know. I really don't know. But I think exploring the concept is interesting. And like a hotel where a lot of people stay and a lot of people traverse, and there's a lot of foot traffic and people come and go, it could be seen as a sort of portal, a life force portal of different energies and different happenings. So I do think a hotel is like a perfect setting for that. And if it's like bad energies, like a black hole just sucking somebody in, I do think that does have the means of like a great story and a terrifying one, especially one for a little boy with like special powers. And furthermore, do those kind of powers exist? Can you talk to somebody uh, with your mind, in your mind, and not necessarily have to open your mouth to do it? I don't know. I don't think I have that power. I don't know if I have any psychic powers. I do have the only psychic thing I have that I know of is I'll dream of things sometime, and down the road I'll encounter the very specific picture I had in my head of a dream happening in real life, and it's happened like a handful of times. And this isn't like routine stuff. This is kind of very niche settings, and it's creepy. It hasn't happened in a long time, and it may never happen again, especially because I'm aware of it, but it is kind of like, what's going on here? Is this just a coincidence? Is it really a coincidence that a specific looking man doing a specific thing is something I dreamed of like 2 years ago to the point where I remember it? You know? It's creepy. But again, it hasn't happened in a long time, so. And it's relatively harmless. So. And I have dreams every now and then, but nothing fairly extraordinary. I don't think I'm very imaginative, but with The Shining, I was really happy to see that reconstruction, even though it is kind of awful and haggard. It's a primitive version of it, and I'm sure people will make better versions as time goes on. But and I'm not necessarily an outright fan of AI. I'm terrified of it, but I was very happy to see this, and I think it's very interesting, and it does add something new to the film. And it's kind of sacrilegious to go against Stanley, but as a fan of the film, um, I'm happy to have the little tidbits that I did. So, but I think that's all I want to talk about concerning it. Um, the Shining itself, I could probably talk about for hours, but and it still holds up. It's still an excellent movie, and with Shelley Duvall's passing, I'm glad to see a lot of people praise her performance as it should be praised. I see a lot of people critique it for a variety of reasons, but I think she did phenomenal. And I think it'll stick out for a long time to come. Like it's going on like it's existed for 44 years, and I think it's as popular as ever. I don't know that as time goes on, how well made films will be, how intelligent films will be, how creative films will be, how well beloved and like cult status certain films will be and achieve. But The Shining is one that'll stick around for a long time to come, and it'll always be one of my very favorite movies. And I did get to see it in theaters when I was like 19, and it was great to see it with an audience. I would do that again. But if it was filled with people like me that know every beat of the movie, then I don't know how fun that would be. But it was fun to see on the big screen. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say. I think there's more to Mr. Ullman than just being he's the head of the ship, but in more ways than one. He's not just the Overlook's overseer. He's certain kind of purgatory's overseer, I think. And I did not think of that before. And again, I don't know if I was supposed to or if I'm just so slow I didn't think about it. But I do think there's something to it. And I think that's fascinating, especially if you're a fan of the movie, which I am. But yeah, all right, that's all I have to say right now. I'm interested in other people's theories or what they think or this, that, and the other. But yeah, until next time, that's about all I want to talk about today. So thanks for listening, and I don't know what my next video will be, but I'll see you then when I do. Love you.